I'm starting a series this week on Unity's 12 Powers. And some of this came out because of the questions that I did last week on Ask the Minister. There were some questions that I thought, look, us as a community diving into the 12 powers could be really helpful. So what I love about the 12 powers is how they play together, how they work together to create something that can become active within us. So we're going to be looking at faith, imagination, and release today, and how those three capacities that we have work together. So the question that came, the very simple question that somebody asked last week, was how does Unity understand God? So if you want the more detailed explanation of that, you can take a look at last week's talk. You can also take a look at the 5 principle talk that I did. It's all on our website in What is Unity. We have the Ask the Minister is excerpted there as a video, and then underneath it are the 5 principles, the talk I did. So easy for you to find if you just look on our website. So how does Unity understand God? The biggest piece that makes Unity unique in some ways to other Christian-based philosophies is that we understand God as beingness and not a being. That we understand that God is the thing that we cannot name. It is unnameable. It is unknowable on some level with our conscious, with our minds, our ego self. But that there is the knower that knows that we are, that actually knows God. Does that make any sense? It'll never make sense, right? Because our minds want to try to make it make sense, but it's a divine paradox. So we're always going to kind of keep coming up against our human understanding and then just the beingness that we actually are. Now, one of the things that Unity does have to help us to be able to understand the unnameable and the unknowable, because Unity is all about usefulness. So if it's unnameable and it's unknowable, is that useful? Not really. I don't find that very useful. So what Unity has is what we call the 12 powers. And the book that I am going to keep referring to, and if you want to know more about the 12 powers, check out Linda Martello-Witzett's Divine Audacity. We have it in the bookstore. Christine ordered some. It's really a great perspective on what the 12 powers are. Another way to describe the 12 powers would be to say that they are our 12 capacities. They are the things that we have access to. They are who we are, and the idea is that all 12 of these powers, when they come together and are synchronized together, that what happens is our Christ nature is revealed. That these 12 powers are an access point to the Christ Buddha consciousness that we actually are. Now, some of us have our powers are a little more overly developed in one area and maybe less developed in other areas. And that's why this is useful, because it gives us a way to be able to understand how we're being invited to grow and expand. So these are Unity's 12 powers. Faith, which we're going to talk about today. Strength, wisdom, love, power itself. And that's why sometimes we call it the 12 capacities or abilities, because the 12 powers and one of them is power is kind of confusing, right? Imagination, which we're going to look at today. Understanding, will, life, zeal, release, and order. Sharcelle and I know nothing about zeal. So the third power we're going to look at today is release, the power to be able to release. So you'll notice there's colors connected to each of the powers. There's also disciples connected to each of the powers. There's also places in your body that are connected to each of the powers. For me, what has always been the most useful is I like the colors because they help me get some clarity in differentiating which is which. And then I want to explore, look at my cool effect. These are the 3 we're going to look at today, okay? And how do faith, imagination, and release work together? So faith is the ability to believe, intuit, and perceive. So that's very different than how a lot of traditions hold faith. A lot of people hold faith as sort of, it's almost like cross your fingers, I'm going to have faith. And you cross your fingers and you hope. So faith and hope are often more closely aligned. In unity, faith is faith. There's no hoping. There's no hoping. It's the other. Now, there's nothing wrong with hoping. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes we have to hope until we have the faith gets activated. But faith is our ability to believe, our ability to intuit, our ability to perceive something that isn't necessarily actually there yet. We all have the power of faith. We are all using the power of faith, whether you're doing it consciously or not. So sometimes we use our power of faith to have faith in the fact that we don't have any faith. It's very complicated, like very circular, but oftentimes our faith is in what we aren't. Unity is focusing on the faith being anchored in what we are, the truth of what we are. Can you feel the difference in that? The next one, imagination, is the ability to image, picture, conceptualize, envision, and dream. That's what imagination is. Imagination is something that in our culture gets promoted quite a lot. Little kids are taught, use your imagination. Understanding imagination as a capacity, as a power, as something that can be activated. How often do you hear little kids told, use your faith? It's not part of our culture to say use your faith, that it's something you can turn in, on, make, right, accessible for yourself. So imagination, the ability to image, picture, conceptualize, envision, and dream. So you can see how, can you already feel how these two are linked? That if we don't have faith in our ability to actually perceive and intuit, then our imagination isn't supported. What we're dreaming about is not supported. What we're conceptualizing doesn't have a strong foundation. And then the last piece that we're going to look at today is release. And this is the ability to eliminate, remove, denounce, deny, let go. I say this all the time. 95% of spiritual liberation is letting go. Because we gotta let ourselves get free of the small, limited understanding that we might have about our life and about what's possible. So can you, when we were working on the empowerment dynamic, the power of TED, and there was a really great, like everyone got really excited about this idea that we were gonna shift our orientation from problem-focused, where we're focused on the problem, which means we're just focused on the solution to the problem, and then all of that becomes a very closed circuit. And what we want to shift into to break free from the drama triangle is vision, creator orientation. That we are creating, that we are accessing vision, something larger than ourselves. And I will often say that if there's something in your life that feels like it's calling you, and it feels like it's something you can easily do, it's a you idea. But if something in your life is calling you and you're like, I have no idea how that could possibly ever come into being, that's a God idea. That's something that's calling you to be larger than who you already understand yourself to be. So the big question that I ask myself all the time, so I'm going to invite you into the same question, is how are you limiting your vision of what's possible? How are you limiting that vision? And I want to be really clear. There's a lot of new thought malpractice out there that, you know, if I'm having problems paying my rent, anybody ever been there? I've been there. Having problems paying my rent, and all of a sudden I'm going to vision that I'm a millionaire. And that's just going to bring millions of dollars into my bank account. That is not what we actually teach. Take a breath. That is not what we teach. What we teach is that as we understand what true principles of prosperity and abundance are, we are changed. And we become a space for there to be more prosperity and more abundance. But it's not magic. It's work. But it's fun work. It's fun work. So how can these powers not work for us and in our vision? So this idea of faith, if you truly do not believe, if you do not believe that something is possible, then guess what? It's not possible. It's not possible. So looking at where does your faith actually truly live? And being honest with yourself. You don't need to lie to yourself. You don't need to pretend. You don't need to be like, no, I believe. What is it from Miracle on 34th Street? I believe, right? We want to actually believe. And if that's where we need to do our work, then that's where we start. We start there. Imagination. Now, don't get me wrong. Imagination is a wonderful thing. But imagination is limited by what we already know. We can imagine something, but we're usually imagining something that we've already seen. I want to live in a bigger home. And where does the idea of that bigger home come from? From the Home Network, the remodeling show, right? That gave you the idea of what else might be possible for your life. So imagination is incredibly powerful, but imagination can also be incredibly limited when you are imagining based on your personal experience. Can you feel that? That imagination can become something that actually is limiting you because you're not stepping out past that. Believe me, I could never have imagined in a million years that I would be up here right now at this point in my life. Never in a million years. I've told you how when I caught the vision, I saw myself wearing ministerial robes. And what did I think? I was gonna play one on TV. Because I couldn't imagine something larger than the life I was already living. So imagination can oftentimes be a block to us stepping into what else is possible. And then release. How many people in here get attached? Everybody's hand should go up, right? We get attached. We get attached to what's familiar. We get attached to what we already know. We get attached for sentimental reasons. We get attached for, there's so many different reasons why we get attached. But can you see how, if our faith isn't really that strong, and our imagination is being limited by what we've already experienced or what our circle of community has already experienced, and we're also sort of not, can you see why you wouldn't want to release? Can you understand that when the faith isn't strong and the imagination doesn't feel inspired, that we don't want to release into that because there's some part of us that knows that we can't trust it. We're not trusting it. But it's when we combine all of these together, when we are willing to step out, as Dallas sang, and just take a leap into our own faith, when we are willing to imagine, and all of my prayers are always this or something greater. I do not limit myself to what I right now think is my highest and best. This or something greater. Opening myself up again and again and again to that divine idea of what my life is, rather than my ego sense of what I think my life should look like. And then I have to be willing to let go of the things that are precious. Have to be willing to let go of the things. Have to be willing to make space. And it can be, I went through my closet and I got rid of everything that doesn't fit. There was a lot of clothes left that closet. But I was like, am I ever going to be a size 2 again? I don't think so. I can let that go, right? I can let that go. Are we willing to let go of the dream, of the idea of who we think we are, to allow the truth of who we are to come through more fully. So if you want to know more about creating a vision, catching the vision of your life, I'm teaching a workshop on Saturday, 11 to 2, so it's here in the space. It'll be Zoom too, so you can do either one. No one is turned away for lack of funds. We have scholarships available. If you want to step into a practice that will help you activate all three of those powers in a way that's really in service to you, this life visioning changed my life. So it's really a powerful, powerful advanced spiritual practice. So our mission statement has as one of our core values connectivity, living in an awareness with unity with all. And remember, this isn't just lip service. This is something that is a core value. This is something that is really calling to this community. We did a lot of work to come up with these core values. And the first way we understand connectivity is we open to divine inspiration and actively engage with spirit. That's what combining faith, imagination, and release does. It creates a sacred container where we can open to divine inspiration, not what we think, not what we already know, and we can actively engage with and as the divine that we actually are. It doesn't ever end. Take a breath with me. It just goes on and on and on. You get to the place where you feel stable and strong and solid, and guess what that means? Time for change. That's exactly what it means. Plateaus are great, but when you plateau for too long, you're losing that forward momentum that is about the expansion of the understanding of who we actually are in this world. From Proverbs, where there is no vision, the people perish. It is so important that as a community, that as a country, that we are anchoring a vision that is actually inspiring us, that is actually calling us forward. Because without that vision, there is no forward momentum. It just stops. And there's pain in that sometimes, because the vision is calling us forward, which means we have to let something go. But it also means that something fabulous is on its way. And that's the place that I'm inviting all of us to stand in around how we live into our life. Michael Beckwith says, you can't have anything in life that you are not willing to become in consciousness. Amen. Whatever is calling you individually, and whatever may be calling us collectively as a community, we have to be willing to become it in consciousness. And is consciousness always evolving? Yeah. So does that mean that all the pieces of our life need to continually evolve and grow? Can we get on board with that? That's fun? Right? I mean, I know sometimes there's a lot of grief or anxiety or tension or like, oh, I'm losing something. But remember, nothing is ever lost. In this plane of existence, energy transforms, but it is never lost. It becomes something else, but it is never lost. That is true in your life. Whatever it is that you think you're losing, there is something waiting to fill that space. Making room for the divine. Right? What's the woman who says, does this bring joy? What's her name? Kondo. Yeah, Kondo, right? You need to be doing that in our life all the time. Does this actually bring me joy? Joy, not is it comfortable? Not is it familiar? Does it bring me joy? Very different understanding of what we're stepping into. So all of that being said, we're looking at a shift in our Unity in Marin logo. I'm going to give you the backstory. You don't need to come up here yet. Cheer. Made everybody look at him, right? You don't need to come up here yet. But that was good. He's on it. He's like ready. So Unity in Marin, over 20 years ago, created a logo. And there was so much love, and there was so much time. And my understanding is it took a year of community coming together and discussion, and the logo was created. And that logo has been a constant until, I want to say 4 years ago. 4 years ago, now this is all before me. So I'm getting the stories from having had conversations with other people throughout the community. So 4 years ago, Unity, well, longer than that, about 15 years ago, Unity created national branding. So Unity, as a movement, created a national branding. And the idea is that everyone who is a Unity community is part of the Unity branding. And it's taken some time for that to filter down. I will say that I believe it's important. I believe it's important that we reflect that we are part of a larger movement. I think it's important that we stand in consciousness with that larger movement. And I also think it's important because sometimes when people in the community travel, they'll send me a website and they'll say, is this actually a Unity community? And I'll go look at the website and they don't have our branding. And it's really hard to tell. Because a church calling itself Unity, like that it doesn't necessarily mean it's a Unity community. So the national branding is important. So when the community voted to move into the national branding, at the same time, the community said, but we want to keep our old logo somehow. We don't want to lose what has been part of our heritage. That was wonderful, but what it did was stop everything. Literally stopped everything, because the two logos don't play well together. So we didn't update the website for a really long time, because how we were going to do that if we didn't have how were we going to make these logos work together? And so we didn't update the website until it literally broke. The website broke. It stopped working. And so we updated the website, and it was kind of crazy working that fast and trying to get things up and going. And the decision that we had to make at that time was on the website, what you see is our national branding. But I never lost the call for the community to have something that is ours, that is uniquely ours. So on the top, you see the national branding. The top two are the national branding. So Unity and Marin, and then oftentimes you'll see it paired with a positive path for spiritual living. We can put our core values there. You can do anything on the side of it. And then underneath it, you see our original logo with our old core values integrated in it. So can you see how they don't really play together? We are, as part of branding, we have to use the branding scope. There's fonts we can use, there's colors we can use, right? That's part of what it means to be in the branding. So what I did was work with a graphic designer to come up with 3 other options that incorporate the idea of the dove and the sun, because in all my conversations throughout the community, that's what people loved. The dove and the sun. Look at the dove behind us. That's not going anywhere. Everybody take a breath. It's not going anywhere, okay? We can keep the dove. It's not going anywhere. So this are the 3 choices. And if the ushers are going to pass out paper so you can actually see it on paper, if you're watching on the live stream, the crew is putting a QR code in the corner of the screen that will take you to a form where you can also see all of these much clearer on your computer. So we have 3 options. They're all focused around Novato, so the hills of Novato, the sun, the dove. Being here is so special. Our location to me matters. The idea of our vision, mission, and core values, which is we're a loving community and we're committed to transformation. So we're trying to get a sense of movement, of something that's speaking to the opening up of our hearts. There's the reason why there's two colors is because while on our website we will almost always we will have the color, when we do print ads in newspapers, we have to do black and white. So we need to be aware of what it looks like in black and white, because it will get used that way as well. So close up, here is what we're calling option number 1. And you're seeing it by itself, and you're seeing it with a positive path for spiritual living. Here is option number 2. And then here is option number 3. And what I'm interested in is feedback from the community. I want to know your thoughts. I want to know what resonates for you. I want to know what it is that as you look at this speaks to you. So I thought what we would do is, because again, we want to try to break free from our surface mind, right? And we want to step into the divine idea of something. So now, Jeremy, you can come on up. We're going to do a little meditation. We're going to do a little meditation. I'm going to grab my iPad really quick. So let's take a breath. I know y'all got those in your hands. Just put them aside for just a minute. There'll be time. If you're watching at home, just stop for a moment and be present in the room. This is an opportunity for us to step into those powers of faith, imagination, release. An opportunity for us to clear away whatever limitations we might have. We're opening our mind and we're quieting our heart. So we anchor the faith. Our faith is always anchored in love. We are anchoring love right here, right now. Just allowing that to grow in our awareness. That everything is working for us. Ease and grace and joy are the activity that is unfolding, and just entering into a place of willingness. Willing to be open. Just how good it is to rest in this space, in this place. So we're going to invite the question, what is the divine idea for Unity in Marin? And I want you to just listen to our vision. This is the vision of Unity in Marin. A world spiritually awakened and transformed through realizing our divine potential. A world spiritually awakened and transformed through realizing our divine potential. Just rest in that for a moment. Are there colors? Are there sounds? A world transformed through our divine potential. And it's from this open-hearted space that I want you to, in your own time, open your eyes and take a look at the survey. A world powerfully transformed through realizing our divine potential. And you're just being invited to rate from 1 to 10. You're being invited to write any comments you like. At the bottom, you're just being invited to just let me know if this was completely your choice, you alone, because it's not. But if it was, what would your preferences be? What would your first choice be? What would your second choice be? And what would your third choice be? And if you're watching online, there's a form you can fill out. And that form is going to be active this entire week. You can put your name on it or not. Either way, whatever feels most comfortable for you. And if you need something to write with, just raise your hand. The ushers are coming around. And if you're new to us, we still want to hear your thoughts. We still want to hear your thoughts. What do you like? So let's all take a breath together. And we're just going to anchor that this community just continues to grow and evolve and shift. And that we continue to come together in this space, this place of imagination, faith, and release. And that in that space, all things are possible. All things are possible. And in agreement to this, we all say, and so it is. Thank you, Jeremy. So we have our affirmation for today. I'll say it once, and then I'll invite you to say it with me. With heart-centered faith, I welcome new ideas, and my life grows and expands in beautiful ways. Can we know this together, please? With heart-centered faith, I welcome new ideas, and my life grows and expands in beautiful ways. And so it is.